Ghosts, Bigfoot, and sea monsters? Oh my. In this interview with Michael Baker, we're going to chat all about the paranormal world. He used to be a paranormal investigator and researcher turned producer. He has amazing stories to share, and we just chat like old best friends. So tune in to this fun, lighthearted interview. I'm Emma, and this is Project Beyond. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for being here. I just earlier today I was looking at your Facebook page and everything, and I saw that we've got like an army of mutual friends, so we have lots in common already, which is
Yes,
very,
yes.
very, very cool. All paranormal people and everything like that.
You have a friend that was in my documentary film, Rob Tremblay.
Oh, right.
He's,
Oh,
yeah, he's one
excellent.
of your friends in there. Yeah, he was in there. I worked with him back in 2005 on that film.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. That's amazing. Oh, that's incredible. So
small world.
yeah, very small world. Well, I grew up on the East Coast. And I think are you on the East Coast as well?
I'm in New Hampshire. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Vermont, so tiny, tiny
Oh,
world,
nice.
but I feel
It
like
is.
paranormal world in itself is quite small as well.
It is. Yeah. It's still underground.
Yes.
As much as they publicize it, it's still very much an underground existence.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, absolutely. So what first got you into the paranormal and all of that?
Well, there's two sides to that, two parts to that story. The first interest in awareness of paranormal anything came when I was 6, 7 years old. I had experiences when I was a kid in the house we lived in, and then um, that got me thinking about the paranormal. Uh, but the investigation of paranormal didn't come until much later uh, when I was working on the film, the documentary. That was my first foray into the
Oh,
world of
wow.
paranormal.
Oh,
Was
wow.
that?
Okay.
Yeah, I was working as a videographer. I started my own company videoing weddings because I'm a very artistic kind of person. I'm a musician. I draw, I paint, I do all these things, and I thought that was a great way to make some extra money on the side and be able to be creative. And before that, I was working as a wedding DJ for a little while, and that got old quickly. I was tired of carrying speakers through kitchens and
Right.
getting people tossing me their coat. And um, people don't realize it when they hire a DJ that the guests aren't very kind to the DJ.
Mm.
But so I decided I wanted to be behind the scenes. So I'll grab a video camera and I'll just video weddings. And
Excellent.
so I got into the editing and all of that. And I wanted to do a creative project. So I figured I'm going to do a short story, 15, 20 minutes, really something very small. And I need subjects. So I'm like, oh, I always like ghosts. I think I'll pick ghosts. So I put a ad in Craigslist looking for groups that would let me go out with them. This is around the time when ghost hunters really took the air on television, and
Right.
it was big.
Yeah,
And I got flooded with people wanting me to go out with them. So
I bet.
I went out with the first couple, and then I couldn't stop because I was kept thinking, if I stop, am I going to miss seeing something that I want to see for this film? So
Mm.
what started out as a 15-minute video turned into a 2-hour movie, and it took me 2 years to make, and I drove more than 6,000 miles to make it. So it became a real big thing, and
Right.
I went out with everybody from exorcists, witches, covens, to the whole gamut of anything paranormal related. I was probably there doing it with somebody
Right.
somewhere at some
Oh,
point.
amazing. What
Yeah.
was the best thing that you experienced in that project?
Oh, I think the in that project, I guess that's a tough one. Um, from a paranormal standpoint, there wasn't a ton in there other than the voice phenomena is always the electronic voice phenomena is always something that intrigued me.
Hmm.
Those that was probably uh, the evidence that had the most impact on me during that filming. But all of my experiences that impressed me didn't come until after filming that movie, and I started investigating myself. And
Okay.
and even after all of that time, I investigated for 13 years, and then I got out. I wrote memoirs on it. I have a book out called Giving Up the Ghost, my 13-year journey with ghost gear and getting out. And during that whole 13-year time, I made my own gear because my trade when I started it was an electronics engineer.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so I built my own equipment, I conducted experiments with the equipment to try to get something tangible. And but I would say during the back to your question, the EVPs were probably the most impactful, just because there were some that came through that were just so incredibly clear.
Hmm.
And aside from the paranormal side of it, the best thing that ever came out of that movie for me was working with all of the different groups. It was I saw everybody's techniques and angles and strengths and weaknesses. I have buckets and buckets of videotapes, little mini videotapes in my basement, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage of me out with all of these groups going to all these places around the Northeast. Uh,
Wow.
the learning experience of going with them was the most impressive to me,
Hmm.
understanding the ins and outs of it. And I think at the time, I was probably the only one who knew what it was like to be with dozens of groups. I don't even the ones on television may have worked with a couple of groups here and there, but I
Yeah.
was with everybody,
Right.
everybody, uh, and and uh, and I got to go out with them. I got to
Mhm.
really get a good inside perspective, and that helped with the movie a lot, I think.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, well, you didn't come out with me in my group. That would have
No,
been
I
so
didn't. Yeah,
fun.
there was only so much time in the day.
I know.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was. Yeah, it was a great experience, though. It really was. Um, and I think that shaped a lot of how I investigated afterwards. The reason I went into investigation afterwards is because I saw the tools they were using and I saw the methods they were using, and I'm thinking, this can't work. You're
Mhm.
doing it wrong. You can't use that to do. It's not doing what you think it is doing, and so I would come up with these bits of equipment that would have give you more information so you understood what you were looking at. Like EMF
Yeah.
meters only measure a number, they don't really tell you what you're looking at. So I use spectrograph technology where you could see what the frequency was and get a fingerprint of what it is, so you could tell if it was the refrigerator going off, or you could tell if it was the microwave or heating system, and you could separate the anomalies from the mundane stuff that is around the house. And
Amazing.
it I ended up getting quite a bit of a following. People would write to me to ask how to build specific stuff that I was working with, and I tried
Hmm.
to market a couple of them a few times. It didn't take off, but yeah, it was fun.
Oh, that's incredible. What piece of equipment do you think was the most unique that you created that no one else was really using?
Let's see. Oh boy. Well, I'll run through a couple of them. There's a couple of them there. In terms of detecting unusual energies, I had a thing that was called the eddy current monitor. And the eddy current monitor, so when you have two different types of energy mingling in space or in the area, they create swirls like vortexes. Like you see, if you see the two rivers of water converging, you're going to see a
Mm.
swirl where they mix, right? They create those are called eddy currents.
Okay.
Same thing happens with energy. Energy mixes and it swirls. So I built a device that detects the merging of those two energies.
Oh my
And the beautiful part of it is you could hook it to anything that was metal, and that became the receiver for it. So, for an example, in investigations where somebody said something was happening in their bed, we took an electric blanket, which has a mesh of metal wire, and I hooked it to the blanket, and the entire bed became a sensor, which is really nobody was doing that at the
oh my
time,
gosh.
and they don't do it today.
Hmm.
Another one that I did was my main focus of my work became looking at electromagnetic energy and how it gets into voice recorders, or uh, how to identify it and how to structure it. So I built a robot that it's how's the best way I could describe it here. Um, Electromagnetic energy travels on axes. It goes up, down, left, right. There's X, Y, and Z axis.
Hmm.
Knowing exactly how to hold your meter you is difficult, because you could hold it this way and it will you won't get anything, but if you tilt it this way you'll get something. So you have to know which axis to hold the meter on. So I
Right.
wanted to identify what the proper axis was and see if there was a correlation among environments. So I made a robot that had a coil that would sense the electromagnetic field and periodically turn it just a little bit and do an entire 360 globe, and then report to me which axis had the most activity. So I could compare that among multiple locations and get some information about what is the proper way to position equipment out in the field. And that was a unique one, very unique. Let me see. I did a lot of stuff with coils, um, uh, just coils of wire and things like that. In fact, I use some of them not even for paranormal research, but for just regular science research. I spent the night outside on Mount Washington at the summit. I got permission from the laboratory to spend the night out there, um, and outside. So outside from the time they closed the gates at 4 p.m. the previous day until the next morning, and I brought one of my coils with me to measure the Earth's Schumann resonances. Now, the
Mm.
Schumann resonances are created from lightning and thunder across the other side of the globe, and the energy that it creates bounces off the ionosphere and creates these subtle frequencies, these seven frequencies that allegedly have a great impact on how we feel and
Yeah.
how we behave and all of that kind of stuff. So
Right.
um, those I wanted to measure those frequencies, and you can't do it in the middle of a city or in your house. You have to be isolated or in a very remote location. And Mount
Mhm.
Washington, being 6,000 feet in the air and nobody around, was the perfect place to do it. So they allowed me to conduct my experiment
Oh my
at the
God.
yeah,
That's
and I got to witness the sunrise, over the mountain. And
mm,
the thing that I was very this was in August. Um, the interesting thing was that what I didn't realize, it could be crystal clear night and you're seeing all of the stars,
mhm.
and within 20 seconds, it is foggy and 100-mile-an-hour winds out of nowhere. Just instantly, you're in this torrent, and then snap your finger, it's gone. It's crystal clear and quiet again. It's
Right.
amazing, amazing experience. One of the best things I think I've ever done in my life was to spend the night on Mount Washington. It
That's
was such an
amazing.
interesting thing to do.
Did you, I mean, I know you were out there for more scientific stuff with the Schumann resonance, but were you looking for UFOs or anything else
Always,
while you were out there?
always, yeah. Anytime I'm looking at the sky, I'm looking for
Yes.
something that's up there,
Right.
Yeah. Um, I
Amazing.
always that was one area that I never really dug deeply into. Although I had a friend, he's passed now, unfortunately. He was very good friends with Betty Hill, and they would go UFO hunting. Now, if you remember Betty Hill, her and her husband Barney, they were the first UFO abductees that were recorded in New Hampshire, driving home from Vermont.
Oh,
And funny enough,
all
driving home
right.
from Vermont, and they were the first to get abducted, at least publicly and recorded. So he
Hmm.
would go out with her, and she knew where they would be landing. She was in communication with them allegedly for all that time, and they would go to these railroad tracks in Exeter, New Hampshire, and sit out there with their chairs at night, and he would see the UFOs on the railroad tracks. And he said that's where they would land because it was a firm surface and it was beneath the tree line, so
Mhm.
nobody could see them. And so you would see, as they were approaching, you could see the UFOs rising above the tree and then go back down again and sitting on the thing. And she said the only thing you can't do is walk up to them. You could sit here and watch, but you can't do anything. And they would go out, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, and he would sit there and witness these UFOs on the railroad tracks. And
Oh my.
there's a recording on the internet somewhere of him talking about that, and I have to get it and put it up somewhere because it's a fascinating. He's describing some of the UFOs as being like smoky glass triangles that are flipped on their side, and it was like some amazing stuff that he's talking about. It
Wow.
was really interesting to hear, and I never uh, I never really went hard on the UFO hunting. I was too busy with other things. Uh, I had a dabble in Bigfoot hunting as well.
Mhm.
I went out with the Monster Quest team unofficially. It was like a scouting for one of the episodes of Monster Quest, and it was during a blizzard. And then we were hiking miles and miles and miles into the woods in a blizzard, and it was like a 2 feet of snow. It was crazy,
Was
and we
this in
got
New
some.
England?
Hmm?
Was this in New England? Where was
It was in
this?
Vermont,
Oh,
up
right.
near Burlington. Yeah,
Oh,
up near Burlington.
right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and we had we before we went out on this expedition. Actually, there's a story about the expedition that's interesting. But before we went out on the story of this expedition, there was a woman who had a Bigfoot sighting just a couple of hours before we were going out. It was right instantly. It was in her backyard. Her daughter saw it and got scared, and so we went and we talked to them, and they allegedly had experienced Sasquatch in their backyard many times. It would throw things at their house. It would break up their furniture outside. All of this. It was an interesting story. In fact, that story became the foundation for one of the stories in my fiction book that I just put out,
Oh,
Experiences.
amazing.
So there's a story in there that was funded from that. All those stories are funded from real claims. And so then we went out into the woods and we spent the night. And it was during the blizzard we spent the night. And when I slept in a tent with a blizzard. And when I woke up, the top of the tent was maybe about an inch from my face because it was sagging in,
Right,
and
right.
it was really, yeah, it was quite. In the middle of the night, we heard a scream, and in the middle of the blizzard, we heard screaming, and we had a primatologist with us who swore up and down that that was a primate scream. That was not a. So they took the tape from me because it was research for the film, but it was a very another cool experience. Like I'm glad I
Wow.
did it, even though don't ever go camping in a blizzard. It's not fun.
No, no, especially in Vermont.
Yes, yes, but
Oh, wow, that's crazy. I we grew up quite deep in the mountains in Vermont, and we had like my brother ran into a bear once, and we would see moose and deer and wolves and coyotes and stuff like that all the time. But I don't ever remember hearing about Bigfoot stories in Vermont. Not
yeah,
that
this was
there
more.
wouldn't be, because of course I believe that they're all over the US. But for some reason I've always just had this mindset that they're all like on the Pacific Northwest, like on that side.
Mostly, I guess, is that's where most of the sightings are, at least. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I would love to do that. We did a road trip a few years ago from Florida up to Washington State. And as soon as I got into the PNW, I'm like, okay, Bigfoot, where are you? As I'm driving through like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah.
roads where it's just trees as tall as you can see. And I'm
It's
just
a
like,
fascinating thing. Yeah, I have an episode on my channel that's going to be coming out in probably another month or so. It's about the Bigfoot hoax of back in, oh boy, was it 2008 or 9 or something like that? I think it was 2008. The two people said that they found a Bigfoot carcass in the woods and they put it in a freezer. I don't know if you remember this.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
they had the press going. CNN was there, everything, and it turned out
Right.
it was just a monkey costume stuffed with animal parts.
Mm.
Crazy.
I have a friend that lives in Portland, I think. And her dad, and I don't remember his name, but he's the person that took the first image of the Bigfoot footprint, I
Oh,
think,
really?
in
Yeah,
Oregon. And it's like it's in a museum and everything now. I can't
that's
remember what
cool.
his name is, but yeah, so that's
Yeah.
my claim to I know somebody. I know someone
Oh,
who's
yeah.
seen
I have a
stuff.
couple of casts from Washington, a left and a right footprint cast.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, they're really cool. I love them. I wanna try to have more, but
Mhm.
'cause it's always been a side interest of mine. I've always been fascinated by the idea of it,
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
there's a lot of people that dismiss it, and rightfully so. It's like why don't we have a body? Why don't we have I totally understand that.
Mhm.
The part that gets me though is that a lot of the prints are found in the middle of the wilderness in nowhere, and who is pranking somebody by going out 10 miles into the woods where people don't go, laying
Mhm.
down these prints that may be covered with leaves or washed away by the rain? Why would you even do that? It doesn't
Yeah.
make Psychologically, it doesn't make sense to me that somebody would
Yeah.
prank that way,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. I know there's a lot of like remote places, even in Alaska, that I mean you can't even get to unless you're on boat or something,
Yeah,
and
exactly. So
people
who's
find them
going out
out
there to
there.
leave
Like, why would
tracks?
you?
You would do it on a beach or you'd do it near a public
Right.
place if you're gonna prank, right? Because you'd want
Hmm.
somebody to find it, but
Exactly.
and not only that, there's somewhere like the one in Washington, there were 1,023 prints. Who's spending that much time
Wow.
doing that? And doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
There's something there. I don't know what it is, but being a science-minded person, I totally get the idea of the lack of evidence, but I'm not ready to
Hmm.
dismiss it. I don't think you
Right.
can dismiss it.
Hmm.
I don't
So
think it's something.
what's your understanding or belief that you think it is? Because I know some people believe it's like a physical creature. Some people think it's more
Hmm.
like multidimensional. Maybe it's a mix of the two. What's your belief with that?
I think it's a physical creature. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that have because there's correlations between some UFO sightings and Bigfoot. There's correlations between UFO sightings and ghosts too. If you lay the maps over each other, the hot spots for paranormal activity are also hot spots for UFOs. But then again, UFOs are also over the hot spots for geological anomalies. So it's like you could probably match up a bunch of stuff. I'm
Right.
not ready. I'm a reserved person in what I will jump on the bandwagon with because I need to know more about it before I can label it. And right now we can't even identify it physically. I have nothing that can suggest to me that it's spiritual in any way at this point, you know.
Hmm.
Um I mean, if that changes, that changes. I'm totally open to changing my mind, but I need to know more about it before I can make a decision. Right now, all we have are footprints and people's words and blurry, they call blob squatch photos, or just the blurry pictures of it. So there's nothing there that says that links to that. I think it's too much.
Hmm.
It's an assumption if I were to jump down that point right now, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's so fascinating to me. I think it was it Harry and the Hendersons, the
Oh
old
yeah, yeah. That was a good
film.
movie.
Loved that as a kid, and because we lived out in the middle of nowhere, I always every time I
It's a
drive down,
wonderful
especially like in
story
the county
regardless.
road, yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
the other thing too is like I I've always been one to challenge both the science skeptics, I guess you could say, then, and the believers. I think both people have a responsibility. I don't think it's a responsible thing to do to dismiss something without investigating it, and I don't think it's a responsible thing to do to believe something without investigating it. I think
Mm,
investigation needs to be something that everybody does. I finish up all of my shows with stay curious and question everything. because
Love
it's
it.
knowledge never, it's good to have knowledge. And so I'm trying to make some shows that challenge the skeptical view, because the science minded people also jump to conclusions, and without maintaining an always open mind. For example, um, there was a fossil record that allegedly supports Bigfoot, right? Gigantopithecus. And there's also Australopithecus, but that was a shorter one. But Gigantopithecus. We only found a piece of a jawbone of Gigantopithecus in all of fossil history. It was found in Asia. Uh, but they knew that it was a 10-foot primate because the jaw is so big, right?
Mhm.
That's all they have is the jaw. So they did some analysis on the jaw, and they found out that the nearest living relative to Gigantopithecus was an orangutan. An orangutan walks on all fours, right? It's not an upright
Right.
walking primate. So they are assuming that Gigantopithecus walked on all fours. Well, the nearest primate to us is a chimpanzee, and a chimpanzee walks on all fours. So if, let's say, somebody came from another planet and found a little piece of a human jawbone and that's all they had, they would say, "Oh, the next living relative is chimpanzee. Humans must be walking on all fours." But
Mm,
that's not the case, is it? I mean, we
right.
we walk upright. So science is making an assumption about Gigantopithecus walking on all fours, saying that it is not a fossil record of Bigfoot. But how do you know that? We don't have any of its feet, we don't have any of its hands, we don't have any of its spine, and you
Right.
can't go by the nearest living relative, obviously, because we're proof that you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that I want to challenge science thinkers about. It's like you can't jump to those conclusions unless you have more information. So
Hmm.
to say that no, it was not Bigfoot is a leap. It's irresponsible to make that as a concrete claim.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
so I think it's about being open-minded, looking for to understand the different sides and perspectives. I mean, um, science needs to do it, and as much as they're saying people who are more faith-based need to do it, everybody needs to do it, and
Right.
everybody's guilty. In the case that everybody should be investigating more. Everybody should be looking into things more. That's all. As
Yeah.
simple as that. It's not that anybody's right or wrong. It's about you should be learning more. You should be,
Hmm.
we could all benefit from learning more.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. I love that you add that to all of your films as well.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, I
great.
think it's an important message.
Yep. How many
Stay
films have you
curious and
done?
question everything. It's good.
How many films have you done?
Well, the period element, which is the series I just started, I've only done 2 episodes of that. Third one's coming out next week. And But prior to that, I had the documentary back in 2005, and then I filmed something for John Zaffis, the Museum of the Paranormal, which actually got him the series on History Channel. I think it was the same
Oh,
structure as so it was just a 45-minute thing that we filmed for him in his museum. I spent a week in his paranormal museum filming stuff. Nothing ever happened there, by the way.
no,
All
I
that
was just
all that
gonna
stuff I
ask.
was waiting for yeah, no, we didn't have anything happen.
Oh no.
Um, but I did that, and then a couple of small short film bits here and there. But I wanted to start bringing out a lot of the research that I did over the years, and so last year I released my memoirs, the 13 years and the book, the memoirs, and that documents my entire start all the way through to the end. And I
Mhm.
have a lot of information that I kept over the years, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting older. At some point, I'm going to forget all of it. I should probably get it out, and let people do with it what they will. So there's a lot of thoughts that I had on paper over the years, questions about stuff. So I figure I'll make a series about that, and let people explore it themselves. Every single video ends ambiguously. Just like 14 Degrees, I never made a determination. I let all the paranormal groups speak for themselves. If
Mhm.
they said something that made them look crazy, that was on them. I never narrated it to the point, I never made a determination that ghosts existed in that. I never made a determination that they don't. It was just, this is the state of things as they exist. What do you think? Type of thing. And
Okay.
that's how all the videos that I make are, because I don't think I have the knowledge or the expertise to say conclusively one way or another. I
Mm.
don't know. I know a lot of things about the physical world. I can tell you a lot of things about how things react together, and in physics even. I've done a lot of research in that. I know a lot about spectrum analysis for analyzing EVPs. I have a book coming out about that too, the EVP code.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
but yeah, I can't say one way or another. I can't make conclusions.
Right.
Uh, I'm just trying to get people thinking.
Yeah.
And people weren't thinking when I was doing investigation. You know, uh, I would go and do lectures. I would do radio shows. Every Halloween, I was on WBZ radio in Boston for talking about ghosts, and I was on there every year for a while there. And then nobody wanted to look at things objectively or ask questions. It got tiring, and I was tired after 13 years, and I was like, I need a break. So
Right.
that's why
That
I
that
got
was
out
my
of it.
next question was why did you stop?
It was really it was hard. What was happening was around 2000. I left in 2018. There was a surge of gear that came out, um, and the approach that people were taking was so abruptly counterintuitive to being able to find anything. And I'll give an example of that in a moment. But it was so counterintuitive to being able to find anything, and I just felt that I was the original voice in the wilderness at that point, and nobody wanted to hear it. I was Debbie Downer when I talked about the problems with equipment and gear. Nobody wanted to hear it. So, some examples would be there's a recorder that was out. This is funny. This is a funny story, actually. Um, a friend of mine was talking about how he wanted to get a Panasonic DR60 audio recorder because it was the one that got all the EVPs. Everybody got EVPs on this. And so I looked at it and I said, I have one of those in my basement. I bought it on a clearance rack in Staples back in like 1996. It was $11. $11. He says, "Oh, you put that on eBay, you'll get a ton of money." So I'm like, "Oh yeah?" I put it on eBay. You know who bought it? Zach
Ew.
Baggins.
Oh gosh.
Zach Baggins bought my recorder, and
Wow.
I shipped it to his house. And but the thing is, that recorder has no it has a very low sampling chip that injects noise into the recording. So it wasn't even useful as an audio recorder. It was really, really bad. You would record and you hear this hiss all the way through it,
Yeah.
and people were hearing things in the hiss. And it's fine as far as people want it, if they hear that. But to put it, I don't like the idea of trying to sell it as a gadget that definitely does that when you don't know that.
Right.
And the amount of misinformation that was being put out about it at the time really bothered me, that there were a
Mm.
lot of opportunists that knew it was garbage, but would purposely spin the story to make it sound like it was the greatest thing in the world. And, uh, you know, I didn't want to be a part of that world that I knew something was wrong, and I had to go and because I would say it stinks to everybody. Don't do it. Don't do it. Get yourself something clear. You don't need noise reduction, but you need a good quality sampling chip, or go back to tape because tape was even better. And nobody would listen. And so there were other gadgets that came out, like the Ovilus. Oh my gosh, the Ovilus. The
Mm-hmm.
Ovilus, a friend of mine, Kathy, sent me an Ovilus to dissect. She was suspicious of it. She bought one and sent it to me and said, "Here, rip it apart and tell us how it works." So I did. I took pictures, I did all this stuff, and I put it through rigorous testing. And I found out that it did not do what the manufacturer claimed at the basic level. So there was a microprocessor chip in there, and the way that works is that one of the pins, the little legs on the microprocessor, is an input um, that is used for grounding the whole circuit. And all they did was tie a wire to it and circle it around the gadget. And so what happens is when just anything, static electricity, whatever it might be, triggers that thing to spit out a word. It does not measure electromagnetic fields, like they say. It has nothing in there to measure electromagnetic fields. It does not measure temperature variation. There's no temperature sensing device in it at all. It is simply just an antenna that picks up random noise and spits out words at random. So when they first came out with it, they published all of the words on the website, the 1,020 words or whatever it was. So I downloaded them. Fortunately, at that time, I was smart. I copied them because they got rid of them afterwards. And I'm a
Oh,
software engineer as well. I wrote a piece of software, and I'll send you a link to it if you like. It's really,
yeah.
it's the software Ovilus using the original words from the Ovilus, and it is set at a random interval. And so I did a test with people, and I had them try the Ovilus and that. The random actually hit more relevant words to their environment and the things they were doing than the Ovilus did. And I know how this was built, and I was very clear about it's just random.
Yeah.
And it's just because these words that they chose, red, dark,
Yeah.
cold, you know, it's so
Mhm.
easy to pin those things to your environment.
Of course.
Um, it and it and that changes how people think. And I just didn't want to be a part of that world anymore. I was like, there's better ways to do these kinds of things. And not
Yeah.
only that, back to the analysis for EVPs, I always use spectrum analysis, and I got really good at it. And I did phonetic analysis. I could tell you what is on a recording without ever listening to it. I could tell you the words that are being spoken simply by looking at the spectrograph and never
Wow.
hearing the words. I could tell you, and I could tell you if it is a man, a woman, or a high pitched voice. I could tell you all of that. I could
Mhm.
even tell you if it had an accent, and I've never even have to
Mhm.
listen to it. And I would give these lectures on it and teach people how to do it. And
Mhm.
they were fascinated by it, but nobody wanted anything to do with it. So because they would bring their EVPs that they caught, and I would be able to identify it. Look, there's no formant lines in here. There's no this is just noise. I could tell you which was an actual voice and which was pareidolia.
Mhm.
Some people had EVPs that were actual voices that were impressive.
Yeah.
It does happen, but the uh, the other stuff, they got disappointed. I was shooting them down, so to speak. I was the downer. And it's not
Mm.
to put them down, it's to give them the truth to make them
Of
a proper
course.
decision,
Yeah.
and keep trying, because there's a lot of people. I captured voices myself, uh, that have no explanation at all. A child's voice with an English brogue in the middle of a place where there's no children, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, it was crystal clear. The kid's having a conversation with somebody, and I could identify all of the formants in the voice.
Mhm.
Astounding to me. I have no answer for it. It's
Mhm.
one of those items in my life that I have no explanation for.
Right.
But you need to be honest with yourself too about some of the stuff, because I have friends even to this day. Every time they think they hear a voice, it's an EVP, and that's it, without ever looking into it, without ever questioning it. That question
Mhm.
everything. It's. I personally want to know the things that I believe have a truth or a substance to them in terms of EVP. I want to know that, yeah, that's a real voice in the middle of nowhere, kind
Yeah.
of thing. Because
Right.
sound can certainly sound like voices,
Yeah.
static can sound like voices
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
People
It's the
fool
same
themselves.
thing. I used to get sent pictures all the time back when I was in my paranormal group of orbs and
Oh
faces
yeah, orbs. Yeah,
everywhere.
dust
And you're
motes.
just like, oh, there's
Orbs was a
hundreds and
huge one for a
hundreds and
while, wasn't
hundreds
it?
of them. Pardon?
Oh, such a big thing for a while. Orbs.
Oh, it was.
It was like such a popular thing. Everybody, and when I first started out, I didn't know. I got a picture of an orb, and I thought, "Oh, look!" Until you realize what it is, and it's like, "Oh."
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I
There's
have
enough.
genuinely seen good orbs like emanating light and having a trail and like
Yeah.
just some, but 99.9% of them just
You
the
know what
dust.
is the most confusing orbs to people are water droplets. Because
Mm,
when the
yeah,
camera is taking the picture, the flash hits the water droplet at one point, and then it fades off. So it
yeah,
looks like a trail of the orb going up instead of
yeah.
down. And so
Hmm.
people thinking, but it's not rain because it's going up. Look, it's like, no,
Right.
it's going down. The flash fades away, and it slowly makes it look like the orb is fading away, and it leaves a trail. So I
Mm,
mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that.
yeah.
It's real, and pollen, insects. I mean, there's a million little
Hmm.
things. I'm glad
Dust,
that orbs
especially
aren't
those
really
little
a big thing
pieces.
anymore. That's
Yeah,
people, I think, kind of got it. You know,
I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah, it's so distracting. For
Yeah.
there's enough real crazy good stuff uh, to be excited about and to
Yeah.
be wondrous about,
Hmm.
and not have that's why I encourage education to know what the stuff is that's real and what isn't. Because I've always felt that the paranormal, um, as you know, the scientific community dismisses paranormal as a pseudoscience and all of that. I've always been a proponent that paranormal can be investigated with the scientific method, uh,
Hmm.
because there's still tests, there's still question, hypothesis, running experiments, evaluation, and then there's still ways to do that. You just need to find the right element to experiment with, to test those things.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that there's a bit of our world that we don't have gear that can detect yet. I've always thought of it like an energy X, that we just don't have a machine that registers it just yet. And maybe there's
Mm,
something else out there that we have not found officially. I don't
right.
think it's worthwhile to completely dismiss that we've discovered every kind of energy we can possibly find in the world, just because we're surrounded by the stuff that constantly presents itself. The
Yeah.
idea of looking for something, making it repeatable. I understand that when something's repeatable, yes, absolutely. If I was able to do something and 20 other colleagues were able to do the same thing and get the same results, 100%, that's pretty conclusive that that thing is probably correct, right?
Mm,
Not 100% correct, because science isn't about truth. Science is about what's most reasonably correct, and it can change. But
yeah.
think about it like lightning, right? Lightning could happen anytime, anywhere when the conditions are right. We don't know exactly where lightning's going to hit. So if you're thinking about if you're going to try to study lightning, where are you going to set up your gear? And then if let's say you were in Antarctica and you never left Antarctica, it's such an incredibly dry place. Lightning is exceedingly rare down there. And what if you told all your friends, I saw this bolt of light come from the sky and hit the ground? They won't believe you because it never happens, right?
Right.
But it
Yeah.
could happen. So to just dismiss it as it's not possible is going too far.
Hmm.
You can't say something's not possible. You have
Right.
to say there's no current evidence right here for it, but let's look some more. You know?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Have you searched for any other cryptids or anything other than Bigfoot and a little bit of aliens?
Hmm. Well, not officially. No. You could count. You could count puckwudgies, I guess, because there was one team I went out with that were looking for these things called puckwudgies down in the and the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. There's supposed to be these little creatures that run around the forest, but we were out looking for other things, but that was on the watch out for these list. It really wasn't a focused investigation, but it was keep an eye out for these types of things.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating stuff, all of it. You know, you gotta keep an open mind. The world will fascinate you. So,
Absolutely. Did you ever
yeah.
go to Vermont and look for Champ?
No, oh, champ, no. That's one thing I haven't done either. No, I have not. Have
I've
you?
seen him twice.
Yeah. Did you
And
see anything?
twice. Yep, twice.
Twice you saw it.
Um,
Oh,
the first time I was 15, I think, and I was flying from the Burlington airport to Guatemala. I was on like a youth mission trip thing. And so it was like a tiny plane and it was just us kids and like the youth pastor and everything in the plane. And we were flying this way over the lake, and I was looking out the window, and there's a sailboat going the same direction we were. And there's this massive shadow swimming under the sailboat this way. And there was nothing like our plane was
wow.
going this way, the sailboat was going this way, and this thing was larger than the sailboat, and it was going under it the
Wow.
other direction. So that was the first, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's Champ!" And I'm freaking out, and like all the other people on the side of the plane were like, "Oh, I see it." But the second experience was up close and personal, and it was amazing. This was, I think it was November-ish, so like cold but not super snowy. Might have been October. 2010,
Hmm.
2011.
Okay.
And I was out with a friend. We'd gone on a date, went out for dinner, whatever, and then went down to the boardwalk to walk around. So it was late. It was super late. Like everything was closed. It was after the bars closed and everything. And we had started out at I think it's called the Echo Center, like a science center there
Sure.
at the boardwalk. And then you kind of like go around this bend and it kind of like, you know, twists and turns and then goes all the way down to the marina. And so we started walking and we kind of get to the front end of the curve and we hear this huge splash. Like a full-grown man had just jumped into the water and we're like, it's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., however late it was. It's freezing out. But we have like the penguins, right? The people
Hmm.
that the penguin plunge or whatever they
Yeah,
call
yeah,
it, the
yeah.
people that will
Yeah.
practice for that. So we're like, I mean, weird to be like, okay, whatever. So we kind of just ignored it and we kept walking towards the sound and we heard it again, this huge splash. We're like, okay, maybe something's wrong. Like the water's way too cold for people to just be like constantly getting in. And so we
Right.
round the corner and there's nothing. And it's just like calm water, nothing's there. So we just keep walking. And so we're on the boardwalk. So the water's like a stone throw away from us. And
Right.
suddenly this massive head and neck come out of the water. We're hearing echolocation, so it sounds like a dolphin. And it's just casually swimming alongside of us. And
Wow.
then the head goes under the water, and as the head goes underwater, it's not even going fast, but as it goes under the water, it makes this massive splash, like a full-grown person jumping into the water. It's under the water for a few minutes, comes back out, and it has echolocation sounds going the whole time it's out. We followed it for 20 minutes, all the way down the boardwalk to the very end, to the marina. I'm calling my mom. I'm on my like flip phone Motorola and waking her up. She was like in Virginia
Yeah.
at the time, and I'm like, we're following Champ. Champ is right here, totally freaking out. Of course, we can't take pictures because our phones are old and shitty and all of
Yep.
that. So we follow all the way to the end, and then it goes under the sailboats and out to the rest of the lake. But it was absolutely
Wow. That's
incredible.
fascinating, huh? It
Yeah.
was 2 in the morning?
It was, it would have been after everything had closed up. So
Mm.
at sometime between like 2 and 4 in the morning, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
too bad you
late.
didn't have a camera, huh? I
I
know.
know. It was
Boy,
like
that's
if I
something to
picked up a
remember though,
stone
isn't
and
it?
threw it, I would have hit it. What's that?
Wow. Was the person you were with, what did they think of it? They were flipping out?
They were just as mind blown as I was.
Yeah.
We talked
Yeah,
about
I
it
would
for
have been.
years
That's
after.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was
That's
incredible.
incredible.
I
Yeah.
remember first thinking the skin of it reminded me of an orca because we would go to Florida all the time and go to like SeaWorld, and I was obsessed with orcas and like I
Smooth.
yeah, just that like oily,
Mm.
smooth, dark skin, and that's what it looked like. But it wasn't like I mean, the head was this huge round thing on a long neck, and out of the water, it was just kind of like this, just going
Yeah.
along, and oh, it was absolutely incredible.
Wow, that's wild. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you're lucky.
I
You're
think
lucky.
there's a lot more sightings than we realize, especially for people who live in Vermont and New
I'm
York,
sure.
the bordering area. I went to a wedding on the lake. It was actually at the Echo Center, and half of the wedding party saw him or it. I didn't see that sighting, but I was there at the wedding, and everyone was freaking out, saying that they saw him.
Wow.
So I had an uncle who had like a summer cottage thing, cabin on the lake, who've seen it, and they had friends who lived on the other side of the lake in New York who say they just see it every year and like, oh yeah, it's just champ, like
Wow.
just nonchalant. So I
Usually the way it goes, you know?
yeah, and I Vermonters especially, well, I think many New Englanders, and maybe it's this way everywhere, I don't know, but I know of Vermont, people are just very like, this is our space and we're not going to tell anyone else. Like,
Yeah.
stay out of Vermont. Like, this is our
And they
home.
become desensitized if they see it enough too, that it's not really a big deal anymore. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah. And I think the lack of wanting all of that attention because the attention of bringing it to the news or bringing it to this person, that person is going to bring in all the people. And Vermonters are
right.
very much like, no, like this is
Right.
our
Yeah.
space. Stay out of it.
Right.
And I mean, maybe I'm completely making that up. I don't know, but in just growing up there and knowing a lot of the people there,
It's
that's
possible. It's
yeah,
not beyond the human capacity to do that. So yeah,
right, right,
it's
yeah.
a, yeah.
But
That's really fascinating.
I did read um my brain has stopped braining a some numbers of something one time. This was millions of years ago, that there are 100 sightings per year by locals in Vermont and New York
Really.
of of Champ.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
I
lot.
think
Think
it
about it.
is a
Yeah.
lot. It is
Yeah.
a
3,000 every 10 years. That's a lot of
yeah,
people. That's a
it
lot
is
of
a lot.
sightings. Yeah.
And then I'm good friends with Katie Elizabeth. Have you heard of her? She's like studies champ out there. She's got like a
I
champ
haven't.
research center out there, and she's come to Scotland a few times to look for Nessie as well. But she's got amazing evidence from her sonar cameras and everything of
Oh,
him.
wow. She's really equipped, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
Yeah.
still doing it today, and I met her 2000, early 2000s, whenever that was. So she's been doing it a
Wow.
long time.
Yeah. I can see
Yeah.
why. It's fascinating. Yeah. That's one cryptid I never, yeah. I focused, I was a focused person, on one or couple of
Hmm.
things. And
Right.
they were interesting to me, but I didn't have time.
Hmm. Something that I really wanted on my journey was like a one-stop shop, something that was not only going to teach me how to increase my intuition, but also dance between the lines of the spirit world and the physical world, as well as time travel through past lives and future lives. So, with over 20 years of studying and research, I decided to put together my own platform that teaches you all of these things and more. In the Academy, you will learn how to expand your own intuition, how to trust your intuition, how to tap into the different realms of spirituality, how to communicate with ghosts, how to see your own past lives and future lives, and so much more. And through this podcast, when you join up to the annual membership, you will get sent a free Project Beyond t-shirt. There's no code involved with this. Just send me an email with proof of your purchase, and I will get the t-shirt sent out to you immediately.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
I want
I
to see
haven't,
them
as far as
all.
experiences right in my face. Um, uh, I guess the paranormal element was probably it. I never witnessed an apparition, unfortunately.
Mm.
But I did. One of the most active places I've ever been, and it was a focus of my research for a while, was the Wayside Inn in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and it's colloquially known as Longfellow's Wayside Inn. Because it was the one Henry Longfellow wrote about. Um, it's 300 years old. There's a room there that was occupied by one of the former inn's owners way back in the day, Jerusha Howe, and she never got married. She was allegedly uh, she died very sad, as from what the story is. That she had she died upset. She had depression. She was also the first piano owner in Sudbury to ever have a piano, and which was really interesting. And one night I was staying there. This is room 9, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I heard piano, and it wasn't a song. It was somebody fumbling on a piano, doing scales, just playing chords, just fumbling around, not music. Just now, her piano is still there, but
Wow.
it is so ridiculously out of tune. I asked the innkeeper if I could play it. I'm a musician.
Mhm.
I've been playing for years and
Of
years and years, since I was
course.
12. And I said, "Can I play it?" And I hit the keys and it's horrible. There's no way you'd recognize it piano. It's
Mhm.
that bad. Um, there's no other piano there at all. And,
Right.
and so what happened was I heard it in her room, and then I got up and I started walking down the hallway, and the further I got from the room, the lower it got. I couldn't hear it. It was in the room. I recorded it. I was able to record it, and
Nice.
I was you can hear it. And you can hear just a couple of keys, and then a scale going up, and then a couple of more keys. It was very clear,
Um,
and that was fascinating to me. So that room became my focus, and one of the coils that I made. So what I did was I made this device that is like a microphone that does not have the diaphragm on the microphone, so it does not translate air into electrical current to be sound. It simply is a coil that picks up electromagnetic waves instead, because electromagnetic waves can travel at the same frequencies as voice, as sound, but you
mm,
don't hear them. And that is how I found out how sound gets into audio recorders, is because of that. It's going through the microphones, the coils or the chambers on the condenser mics, and that's how it's getting into the recorder. So the source of EVPs, genuine ones, is likely EMF, believe it or not. So I built this really sensitive microphone, and I went into the room and I recorded a woman crying, like bawling. I mean, and it's very clear. And there's no diaphragm on this microphone. There's no way it picked up anything in the room. It picked up this woman crying, and it blew everybody's mind when we heard it, when we played it back. And
wow.
it was near the bed in the room. And then that same microphone, actually, I picked up Native American drumming in a cornfield.
Oh, wow.
Which is astonishing because I didn't think I would pick up drums. Why drums? And the science head in me is starting to think then, are these EVPs really lingering spirits, or are they simply recorded things on the environment? Because there's no
Mhm.
ghost of drums, of course. So there's no soul in a drum. There's no, you can't make that argument for drums. Uh, but the crying, it was astonishing. And in that room, we also recorded 2 shadow figures, right, that came up out of the floor and then up over the bed. And the water in the bathroom turned on by itself. We got that. We got all this
Nice.
kind of stuff. And the coolest part about this is how it all came together because inside the Wayside Inn, have you ever been there? Have you ever gone
I
there at all?
haven't, I don't think,
Okay.
no.
Inside that room is what's called the Secret Draw Society. And the
Okay.
people who stay at the inn write down notes about their experience and they tuck it into the cracks in the wood and under the doors and in the floors. And you have to go on kind of this scavenger hunt to find these notes from all these people. So
Oh,
I went in there one day with a scanner and I scanned them all. And I went home and I read them and I had justification for every single experience I had in the room. Other people had it. The water turning on, shadow coming up exactly where I said it was, crying, the piano at night, knocks on the door, which we heard. All of that stuff was written over the past years. Uh, everybody else is having those experiences too, which I
wow.
thought was fantastic because that's unsolicited
Mm-hmm.
testimony after the fact. It's
Yep.
like I recorded this thing, and now I find out that years before this, people were complaining about this happening,
Yep.
and it was really fascinating. But it's a wonderful little place to stay because of those notes. You know, you go and you spend all the time in the room looking for the little secret places where people might have hid
Oh,
them. You know,
love
it's really
that.
neat.
That's so cool. What
Yeah.
state is this in? Is it
What
in New
I was
Hampshire?
oh, it's in Massachusetts,
Oh,
Sudbury,
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
room 9 if anybody ever wants to go there. The
yeah.
innkeeper's very, embrace the idea of doing it. The only reason that slowed down my, research there is that I had to pay for the room each night. It's
Right.
$135 a night, you know, when you're young, you got a family, all that it's like, you can't
Yeah.
be doing that all the time, and
Right.
so I would do bartering. I, did a couple of dinners there
Mhm.
where I would do a presentation on the history of the inn in Jerusha and then show the ghostly evidence that we captured from the room while they served uh, a period style dinner, you know, chicken fricassee and spring vegetables, and they would and it packed the house. And in trade, he would give me a couple of nights in the room to do research.
Excellent. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah, it's fun. It's a
Where
great
else in the
place.
States have
Great.
you gone that you really enjoyed? Like, what was your, let's say, the creepiest location around the US that you went to?
Oh, the funny thing is, the place that there was only one place where I was actually terrified in all my life. Um, and it had nothing to do with the creepy factor, and I couldn't explain it.
Oh.
Um, there was an inn in Dracut, Massachusetts, and the lights were on. It was afternoon. I walked into one of the rooms. This was before we even started investigating, and I was terrified beyond belief for no apparent reason.
Mhm.
I had goose flesh, and my the hair on my arms was standing. I was terrified, and I had
Wow.
no idea why. And when I left the room, I felt better. But when I went into that room, for some reason, and the inn isn't decrepit. It wasn't an old falling down inn.
Mhm.
It was a nice place. But for some reason, just fear instinctively just took over, and I was afraid for some unvisual, unsounding reason. There were other
Yeah.
people in the room. They didn't feel the same thing.
Oh,
I was
interesting.
just terrified. It was really,
Mhm.
really weird to me. The other places that I guess the S.K. Pierce Mansion, when I first went on the that was the first place I ever investigated was the S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Mass. And that was a decrepit old mansion, 26-room mansion. And I had never been on a paranormal investigation before, so I was a little freaked out, you know.
Nice.
Um, but it was because they turn out the lights, and
Yeah.
you know, you get afraid, and you get, you know, it's like you're not seeing it before. And the only time I ever saw anything like it was on Ghost Hunters on TV. Uh,
Mhm.
and I guess the third runner up would be the Freetown State Forest. Um, there was a murder that took place there in the 70s, and there's a cabin that's left over there for when they committed the murders, and the remnants
Oh.
of the cabin. And that was a little freaky. just visually, it instilled that kind of fight or flight kind of fear in you a little
Mhm.
bit. I don't think it had anything to do with anything that might be there. It just the image of it all and the idea of what occurred there was, I kept it to
It's in your
myself
head.
because
Yeah.
I had something to do. But it was, yeah, that one kind of hit me a little bit. But that one in that inn in Drake, I don't have any explanation for it at all. Um, yeah, and I've gone some pretty creepy looking places. There was a place in Waltham where the graves were all, it was a graveyard, and that wasn't a known graveyard, and you could see the tombstones, but all the graves were sunken in like 5 feet down. There were these holes going into the ground for each of the
Mhm.
graves. Very creepy looking. Um, that was fine, and I've never been had any other problems any other time. But yeah, that one time I'll never forget it. I've never had that happen to me, being afraid out of nowhere for no
Mhm.
reason at all. You know,
Yeah.
completely irrational. Yeah.
Love it. Love
I
it.
had to get out of the room. It
Yeah.
was weird. It was like yeah.
Something
Yeah.
poking at you.
Yeah, something happened. I don't know what it was, but it was cool,
Yep.
now that I think about it. That's pretty cool. Uh,
Yeah.
makes me wonder what's going on up there.
Hmm. Did you ever get to the Highgate Manor in Vermont?
I haven't, yeah. I didn't go other than Bigfoot hunting, I never did any paranormal investigating in Vermont, unfortunately. It's
Mhm.
all been I went to Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. It was more down in that direction
Okay. Yep.
but I never got to go up into Vermont. I love Vermont.
Um,
Vermont's a beautiful state. I want to
Yeah.
move there, quite honestly. I love
Yeah.
it there. But
Yeah. Cold, long winters, but it is beautiful.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I'm in New Hampshire, so it's like
Yeah,
it's
it's the same. You're already
so yeah,
there.
it's not too much different, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
What made
that's
you go to the UK?
um change of scenery, following my ancestry tree. I was doing my ancestry tree in 2018, I think, or 2017, and then I started realizing we have like a whole bunch of direct lineages to people, to like royalty and castles, and I'm just like, I'm gonna
Oh,
go
cool.
claim a castle. And I tried and that didn't work.
Do you enjoy it there? Is it nice there?
It's nice. It's quiet. It's very Vermont-ish without the harsh weather. It's just kind of
Good.
like mild. Everything's mild. The weather's mild.
Mhm.
The food is mild. Everything's mild.
Yeah, yeah. The
Um,
tan food, everything's tan, right? Everything's
yes,
like,
yeah,
yep,
yeah. No salt on anything.
that's right, yeah. That's funny.
But it's beautiful. The buildings are, ugh, but
Oh,
we're
yeah.
actually moving back to the East Coast, and I will miss just the beautiful, beautiful old stone buildings. Everything is so old here.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
I used to go investigating at the Highgate Manor in Vermont all the time. It was built in 1818. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is so old. Like this building I live in now is probably older than that. This is like nothing.
Right, yeah, we think we know old over here, and we
Yeah,
really don't.
no, not at all. Not at all. Like the York Minster that we go to all the time because we live quite close to York. It's like, what is it, over 1,000 years old?
Mhm.
It's insane. It's so crazy. And it's beautiful. And the architecture they don't do stuff like
Yeah.
that anymore. And they don't make
No,
things
they
that
don't.
way
They don't.
anymore.
Yeah, the architecture over there where you're at is beautiful. It's
Hmm.
incredible. The
Yeah,
stories too, the things tied to it, it's amazing, you know?
absolutely. One thing that I've noticed, and I've talked with a few people who've been both in the UK and in the US, is I expected there to be a lot more paranormal like hauntings and stuff here. And in my
Not so much.
experience, yeah, it's just mild.
My Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, really interesting. So we've been doing ghost hunts at Chillingham Castle, which is the UK's most haunted castle, and we've gone every year since 2019, I think. A few years where we've gone multiple times in the year. And It's
Nothing,
just
nothing eventful, huh? Yeah,
nothing that I can. I mean, we've had some cool photos and we've had some cool experiences.
yeah. And just being there is cool.
Yeah, but it's not anything like doors slamming or things flying across the room
Yeah, it
or
wasn't what
like
you expected, at least, right? Yeah, it wasn't what
yeah,
you were. Yeah,
not at all. Whereas back in
yeah,
the States, I feel like the energy is so much more heightened. Like you have a haunting, like things
yeah,
are
yeah.
intense and crazy. And it's not like that here, at least not in my experience. And so I've talked with a few people who've been in like go literally, not literally, who've been ghost hunting in both places, and they've said exactly the same thing.
Interesting.
How the energy in the UK just seems to be like dulled and muted.
Yeah,
Not to say that there's not hauntings here because there are, but they're quiet, if that
isn't that
makes
interesting?
any sense.
Yeah,
Whereas in the US, everything is just so intense and loud
yeah,
and
more.
big and all of those things. So I'm curious like what that could even be, and I have some ideas and people that I've talked to had some ideas, but
Well, you have that in the
interesting.
very basics of the mentality between the two locations as well, right? I mean, as you mentioned, the UK is very mild and laid back and calm.
Hmm.
Um, America has always been about excess and that's built into the history, right? So if there's history in the locations here, I'm sure that element is translated here too. So
Hmm.
maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
don't have British ghosts in the American places, right? You have American descendants or
Right.
whoever that. So if we're bigger and crazier here, then maybe that's why as well.
Yeah, maybe. One
But
of
that's interesting, though. I never knew that.
it is really interesting. And I thought I was just kind of going crazy at first, because I think I am spoiled because I've had some amazing, very intense hauntings and experiences in the US. Um, for example, I've been to the Highgate Manor over 300 times. Amazing location. Every
Mm,
time I've gone, something has happened, like many, many, many things. And this one time I went with my girlfriend at the time. We had like our little mini paranormal group, and it was us two and then our boyfriends. So the boyfriends were staying home, and the two of us just went and we spent the night and we came back. And the guys were like, "How was it this time? You know, what happened?" And we're just
mm.
like, "Nothing." We were there all night long and nothing happened. And we were so bored and we were like furious. And they're like, "I don't understand. Like something always happens." And we were just like, "Well, all we heard was footsteps and a door slam and something being dragged across the floor and a girl saying hi." And like that was it. Like, but we because our experiences have been
You're
so much
spoiled.
bigger. So I'm a little bit spoiled, I think, with my experiences. Then I come here and I'm just like, oh, well, I'm in the UK's most haunted castle and nothing's really happening.
Yeah, it's not
Like,
living up to
no,
expectations.
it's
Yeah.
not. But I've had a theory, and I don't know how controversial this will be to say in my podcast, but it's my podcast and it's my theory, so
That's
I'm
right.
gonna
It's your
say
show.
it.
You do what you need to do. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but the historically, the UK has been very much listen to what you're told and go with the flow, kind of with your
Hmm.
head down, like do as the king says or the queen says, and
Right, right.
there's not a lot of like fight back against that. And that
Yep.
kind of goes along with everything in society. Like people just go with what they're told here. Whereas in the US, like the US is a country because people did something
Railed against the
different. They went
machine.
against the grain.
Yep.
They, they fought and they rebelled and all of that. And so I think, again, this is just my theory, because this country is very much like with the blinders on, they're not going to be seeing and experiencing all of those energies. And I very much believe as well,
Yeah,
if you go to a location, whether it's haunted or not, and everybody's going with this story of, oh my God, this girl hung herself, or this happened and
yeah,
this
yeah.
happened, the collective energy is going to create something. It's going to make that energy bigger, stronger. Um, Whereas if you have a whole country who's just like, oh, we don't believe in that, or that's not real, or let's just kind of, head down and move through it, the energy as a whole will be kind of smothered and pushed down.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? That's
That's
my
an interesting. I think it's an interesting perspective. I think I think that could certainly, at the very least, play a part in it because you have, let's say you had somebody who exists years ago and they ended up dying. They were in the UK. They were also of that mindset not to make a big
Mm,
fuss, right? Then you have the people years later who are experiencing that spirit that might have come back, and they are also blinders on. Let's not make a big fuss, and that gets
hmm.
compounded, right? But when
Yeah.
you go to the United States, where people were rallying and revolutionizing, and they're
Hmm.
much more louder, they're willing to shout from this. There is no proper in the United
Right.
States. It's
Right.
not. There's no subdued behavior. I think you got a
Mhm.
point there. I think it's a very interesting thing to look into the perspectives of the people in each country that are paying attention to what people are willing to report and what
Right.
people are saying they should just keep quiet about it, or we don't really want to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've talked with a lot of people, and almost everyone I've talked to here has had some experience, but they don't share it. So again, it's
Right.
it's kind of like, well, there's something, but people will think I'm crazy if I tell my story. So it's
Oh
just very,
yeah.
very
Culture
quiet.
plays a big role. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting because I would have loved to do a whole bunch more investigations here and stuff, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
been a
Well, you got
mild.
to visit it, so that's something. And you
Yeah.
also have a perspective that not many people have
Hmm.
because you got to see both places and you get to do these comparisons. You have
Yeah.
eye on the ground. That's wonderful. You have an experience
Yeah.
regardless. There's no bad result.
Hmm.
The knowledge is great no matter what it says, if it either supports or denies whatever you're trying to find. You are now better for knowing it, you
Yeah.
know? So that's the
Absolutely.
way yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
it's fascinating. You say it's funny, about years ago, I was driving home from Cape Cod and I got a call that somebody was having a paranormal encounter as we speak, and it wasn't far from where I was. They said things were being thrown around the house like wild. So I turned the car around and I went right over to the place. And when I got there, they were all outside. They were the couple of the people were in the family were crying. The husband in the family was taking me in to show me. He said they don't know what it was. It lasted about 15 minutes, and it just started tearing the house apart. Now,
wow.
their TV was smashed, ripped off of the wall. Okay, ripped off the wall, smashed. There was a hand mirror that you use, out of vanity, the hand mirrors,
Mhm.
shoved through the wall, pushed from one wall. You could see the handle coming out in the other wall, and the top. He said
Oh,
it flew
wow.
across the room and stuck itself in the wall, and there were broken glasses. There were plates in the cabinet that were broken that were not ever taken out. They were shattered between two plates. There was a completely unbroken plate on the top and on the bottom, and in the middle there were shattered plates in the middle, and it was all of this kind of stuff. He said it lasted for 15 minutes, and so um, I interviewed the family. The children didn't even want to talk about it. Like I
Oh,
wanted to get their perspective on it, and because you want to do those things as soon as they're fresh in the memory, because our memories change whether we like
yeah.
it or not. The fresh they didn't want to talk about it, and I don't know what happened. I never had a resolution in that case. They didn't want any more investigation. They didn't want to deal with it anymore. But the guy happened to have my business card because he went to a library that I gave a lecture at. And he
Mhm.
said, "Oh, I had your card, and I didn't know who to call. I was going to call the police, but they wouldn't believe me." And so he happened to call me, and I happened to be not far from the house, but
Amazing.
unfortunately a little too far to be able to go in and actually witness this stuff happening. But it's the only case that I ever went to that had poltergeist uh, connotations. Like that
Mhm.
something dealing with poltergeist activity, uh, and that was just off the hook. And I say this because there were cases in Europe, paranormal poltergeist cases that were documented, scientifically documented, in fact, which is
Wow.
one thing to the credit of the European investigators. They are more likely to create a scientific document from an
Mhm.
investigation than here in the U.S. The
Yeah.
U.S. it's like pulling teeth to get
Yeah.
somebody to write it down. But there was the Druten poltergeist, which was in Netherlands, the 13-year-old boy. There's a whole bunch of them there that were pretty dynamic as well, and had a lot of the similar kind of thing. Like the Druten one was witnessed by the whole town, and there's even police reports on it. There's the let me see, what was the other one? The Turkish poltergeist that happened in 1995. I'm trying to think of these, but they were all very dynamic. Um, and they were usually involving the throwing of rocks over there, though, rather than actual device like objects in the home, which is a very interesting. Now that I think about it, comparing the two, it's all the poltergeist cases that I read from the other side of the pond have always been rock throwing or tapping or banging, uh, and over here they're very I'm gonna pick up your stuff and break it, kind of.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, but there are some cases over that side that are not all mild. There are a couple that have been documented that allegedly,
Mhm.
I wasn't around for when they had them, so I can't say, but
Right.
there are some that are pretty active.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. And there's a pub just down the street from me called Hales Bar, and it's meant to have poltergeist activity, like cups flying off of the shelves and stuff like that. But so I'm sure it's there. I've not
You
personally
have not had it, yeah,
seen
you've not
it
had the
or heard of anybody
yeah.
personally who's experienced it, and it's just the energy itself, because I'm like, my mom jokes, well, I don't know if she jokes, she's probably dead serious. She's always said that I'm haunted because everywhere I go, there's like
Yeah.
so many crazy things happen.
Mhm.
And I think I got used to that, and I quite enjoyed it. That might sound weird and twisted. Um, but when I moved to England, like my house isn't haunted, and I'm just like what, nothing is going on. I went to the not the museum, I went to the antique shop. I brought my like EMF thing, and I found three haunted items, and I bought them and I brought them home. I'm like, please, ghost, come home with me, and even that didn't
Yeah.
work, and I'm just like, why? I don't get it, what's going on?
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, you wanna have it and you don't get to have it, and the people who don't want it get to have it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I've noticed a big decrease, though, in people reaching out to paranormal groups for investigations. That seemed to disappear,
Mm,
after ghost hunters hit their peak.
yeah.
In those early days, we used to get calls from people down the street. It was almost like Ghostbusters, you get the
Yeah.
call, it's like, "Go help this people, they're gonna go over here." And now nobody calls anymore.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get a legitimate in-house investigation anymore.
I've
Um,
noticed that as
and,
well.
and I think the investigators that I know got tired of doing in-house investigations, believe it or not, by the end of that run. They were tired of going because it was usually people wanting to, by the end of it anyway. And this is part of the reason that I left. Uh, I went to do one of the last investigations I did was in I want to say Medford or Malden, I can't remember the exact exact town, but anyway, we went into this home, and they called saying that they were terrified. They want somebody to come help figure out what's going on. Blah 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 blah. And when we got there, they were live streaming the investigation, and it was more for boosting their Facebook channel. They weren't really
Mm,
terrified of anything. It was
mm,
more to put on a show.
right.
And that was a common thread near the end of my tenure in that was that a
Mhm.
lot of people that called us were really just because they had some friends over and they wanted to let's see what they do, and let's that kind of fun. And it's so disappointing, you know, when you have that, you become a puppet all of a sudden, and just a show for folly, and the investigation never really you never really get to do much because you can't believe the claims anymore. And if you don't have that at least as a foundation, what are you there for? You
Yeah.
need something.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
noticed that a lot as well. I left the paranormal field in 2013 for
Mhm.
really all the same reasons. It's
Yeah,
just,
it got sad.
yeah,
It got
did.
sad,
It
and
did.
I met a lot of good people though,
Hmm.
and my I met a witches coven that, in my opinion, were had the most integrity of all the people that I met investigating all the years. Still stands to this day.
Mm.
In terms of their integrity in investigation, the honesty, they were all mediums. In fact, my son wasn't baptized. I gave him a wickening from this group.
Oh.
And now I am not, I'm a, I'm not a believer and I'm not a denier. I am strictly down the middle.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't that I was joining a witches coven. They had a service that they explained to me in one of the interviews called a wickening, where they have the nature welcome the child in wind and water and sun and all that kind of. It was a very beautiful sounding thing. I'm like, that's what I want. So we got a
Yeah.
certificate. We drove to them in New York, and they performed the ceremony, and they gave them. It was really nice.
I
And
love that.
in fact, I went on Halloween and joined them in their witches circle for the libations and stuff. They put on the robes and around the fire. It was really, really very interesting.
Oh, I love.
Um, but I had, yeah, I met a lot of great people that way, but they had such a great integrity about them. They were the only ones out of, oh my gosh, all of the investigation teams that I ever went out with. They were the only ones who investigated during the day. And
Mhm.
they said they don't need to be there at night. Things that if it's something there, it's going to be there during the day as well as the night. It's not going to go away. It's not going to come out
Mhm.
at night. And we can see things better during the day. So we want to go there during the day. And I'm like, sounds good to me. The other thing, they did not explain to their team any of the history of the place they were going.
Yeah,
They didn't want them to be biased in any
I
way.
did. Yeah.
And then we got to the place, and the investigation was 8 hours, and they did not speak a word in 8 hours to each other. Not one
Wow.
word, not a single word. They walked around with notepads in pairs, but didn't say a word. And I had an extra camera person because I was filming them at the time.
Hmm.
And we were like, there's nothing to show here. They're just standing in a room looking around, writing stuff down. Uh, but the interesting thing is, at the end of the investigation, their notes jived of the hot spots and the places in the they. And this is a 42-room mansion they were in. It
Wow.
wasn't just like they happened, 4 rooms and they happened to all gravitate to the one.
Right.
42
Right.
rooms, and they were picking the hot spots, and they all matched. And then I got them into a conference room, and I was debriefing them. And I said, "So, what do you think? Is it haunted?" And they said, "We can't say it's haunted because we didn't get any evidence." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Evidence aside, oh, if we don't have to have evidence, psychically, yeah, it's haunted. It's very active." And but I thought the integrity of being honest about the fact that they could not put a stamp on it and say that yes, this is a haunted location because they didn't get anything tangible, had an incredible amount of integrity,
Mhm.
and it showed their sincerity in their approach to this research. And I was fascinated. They were the only ones that did that in all of my experience. Everybody else had to do it at night and turn out the lights and had all of this prep going in and did all this pre-research and all of this stuff and went in charge mentally to expect an anomaly. They did not. And they had some interesting observations. They had a psychic artist there that drew pictures that actually did look a little close to some of the historical people that were there.
Mhm.
It was interesting. It was a very interesting experience, and it changed my mind of how I was viewing the psychic approach to investigation, because
Mhm.
they were methodical and they kept themselves in check in terms of what reality is and what they believe, and they made a balance out of it, and that was the appropriate thing to do. So now you have all this information from both sides, and you know the truth.
Yeah.
That yes, they didn't capture a picture or an audio recording or a video. That's okay.
Mhm.
And if you ask them without evidence, they would say, yes, we feel it is. That's an honest answer to the homeowner, in my opinion, that a lot of groups just don't give. By the end of my tenure, there were people certifying places haunted, giving a certificate to the homeowner, and I'm like, "How can you possibly do that?
Yeah, I
You
remember
don't
that.
know enough. You may believe it's haunted, you may have had a lot of
Mhm.
experience, but you cannot certify anything. You're not authorized to be the certifying power to do that." That's very unethical, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I
But it
remember
was
that.
fascinating, yeah. Um, when I first went into it, I've always been skeptical minded, you know, I've always had, and the idea there was the groups that I was working with, a lot of them were science based because of taps on TV, you know, ghost hunters, and
Yeah.
they were all resisting the idea of working with mediums and such. So I went in there with a little bit of a bias when I started out, and then there are no doubt in my mind, and I've worked with them. There are mediums that fake stuff. There are, I know personally, at least a dozen mediums who were caught completely faking.
Mhm.
That does not deter. That does not diminish all mediums
Right.
in my mind. It does not make everybody a liar because somebody lied, but
Yeah.
it does happen. People who do scientific investigation also lie, also cheat and get caught. I know plenty of them as well. There's one medium that I worked with that I thought had such an incredible stature about him. His name is Rick Bovair, and he was a medium that we worked with in the Houghton Mansion in North Adams, Mass. And very intelligent person, also much like the ISIS witches coven. They were called ISIS. Unfortunate name considering what happened afterwards, but they didn't name themselves
Mhm.
as
Right.
the Middle East ISIS. There was
Of
ISIS,
course.
the goddess, you know. But
Yes, yes.
yeah, they were like they were so mad when they came out because they were like, why do they have to call themselves that? You know,
Mhm.
the uh, the ISIS. They were mad at the terrorist group for calling themselves ISIS because they ruined it for us. You know, it's like
Yeah.
yeah.
My best
But
friend's
anyway,
daughter's name is Isis.
yeah. But yeah, Rick, just like that Coven, he was very grounded and appreciated the scientific approach to things, and did not swear up and down that things were this is exactly how it is, because every medium that I've spoken to that seems sincere or has sincerity will say it is an interpretation of things that they're feeling, and any interpretation cannot be labeled as fact. So,
Right.
like, even if I feel the room is warm, warm is subjective,
Yeah.
right? So I can't say it's a fact the room is warm because I feel the room is warm.
Mhm.
So to put an exact label on something when it's based on a interpretation of a feeling, that to me is when you cross the line. But to say that I feel it's warm, and I feel this, and this is how I'm interpreting it. That is an honest approach to things
Yeah.
rather than putting a definitive label on something as it's definitely haunted. There was a medium that I worked with that um, had he did it was an exorcist and did clearings of houses, and he had this whole ritual that he would go through to clear the house. But I went to a home after him. I didn't know he had investigated prior to me, and there was a girl there terrified. She couldn't. It was a little girl, 8 years old, 9 years old, could not sleep in her bedroom. She was terrified constantly. found out that he had visited there before and told them that there was a demon in their basement, and just came right out and, and the girl heard that. They told the whole family, and it just put her off, I mean, it was really horrible. He did this in another house too, where they had just bought a house. This couple had just bought a house. He told them there was a demon there, and they couldn't live there. They were still living. But when we went, finally, they were living in their parents' house, and they had just bought this new house that they couldn't move into. So, and I'm thinking to myself, it's like, even though this guy may have felt something there, let's just say for the sake of argument, he's sincere and he really does feel that. It's a poor ethical choice to give them a fact that there's something that's going to hurt them in their house when it's really not beyond your feeling. You don't know this for sure. And it
Yeah.
might be one thing to tell one of the parents in private or something if you want to express your feelings, but just to
Mhm.
blurt it out in front of the children, I thought was just horrible. And it was just done
Mhm.
for show, and I'm so that's those are the lines in mediumistic investigation that I think people should never cross in
Mhm.
terms of that. I'm open to anybody doing anything in their own way, and investigating, but don't hurt people in the process.
Yeah,
I think it's a much you got to be safe in how you do things like that, and
absolutely.
especially with little kids around, they can be
Oh
so
yeah,
effective. You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm, that's
But
a shame.
yeah, I mean, but that, like I said, that movie that I made was just such a wonderful education. Getting to meet all these different people and different perspectives,
Mhm.
I learned a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Um, do you still do your own kind of paranormal stuff here and there, or are you done with it?
Um, I do research, um, but I don't go out and investigate. I look into. I'm more of a just like somebody with physics. You can have a practical physicist and you have a theoretical physicist. I'm more in the theoretical
Mm,
realm at the moment, and who knows? Maybe that will all change. But and I've done this since the beginning, so it's really not. It's just the invest going out in the field part that has changed for me.
yeah.
um, my show now is called The Period Element, and years before, I used to have a website, theperiadelement.com, and on there, I would have scientifically published papers that had a finger in paranormal. So like it would be when scientists investigate a phenomena that could be an explanation for something paranormal, or is a study of a medium, or is a study of a phenomena, or when people have a poltergeist and they write the paper. I was collecting them all, and I had like 340 papers, published scientific peer-reviewed papers
No.
that had a paranormal edge to them. And that's what I'm turning into the series now. I'm
No.
turning those peer-reviewed papers into shows, so people can
Awesome.
understand that not all of science dismisses this stuff.
Mhm.
There are people
Yeah.
that do investigate it and
Yeah.
that do research it, and it's just as fascinating as anything else. And it doesn't dismiss it. Not all
Mhm.
science dismisses this. Um, there are people that do approach it with open minds. I published a paper myself on EVP analysis, um, and I was in 2016, I think, and it's a really fascinating thing. So what I did was I made a bunch of fake EVPs purposely. I had my group record them so they sounded like EVPs, but I
Mhm.
wanted to know what they were saying. Some of them said nothing, were just noises,
Mhm.
and other things were actual voices because I wanted to see what the human perception was hearing an EVP, right? I wanted to see
Mhm.
how accurate human hearing was.
Mhm.
So I made these and then I gave people a test and let them pick out what they think it's saying to a whole bunch of people. And then because I knew exactly what it was saying, and I wanted to see how off they were and what direction they went in. And
Mm.
it was an interesting thing how most they got most of them wrong. Some of them were very clear and they got them, and there's a certain threshold of clarity where people can hear it. one of the people that wanted called me and asked me to take the test after I had published the paper. They wanted to take the test. Was oh, he was on Psychic Kids. His name is Chris Fleming. Chris
Oh,
Fleming.
right.
Yeah, he's a psychic. He was on Psychic Kids and something else. Yeah, he was on there. He called me up and he wanted to listen to it, and it was really funny. And I had to put this in the paper because it was just such an interesting result, and it's in there. If you ever find the scientific paper, it's in there. But one of the elements, one of the recordings, I forget what it actually said, but he swore up and down that it said "kill Zach Baggins." That's what he heard, "kill Zach Baggins," and I said no. I said I get that you heard that. That's interesting, but I said it doesn't say that. He says no, it does. I said
Oh my,
no, it doesn't. I said Chris, you realize I created these. I know exactly what it says. Like 100%, no doubt in my mind. I know what it says because I made it. But he says I understand that you think that, but it says kills. And I'm like, wow, it's like you can't get it out of your head that it says that. And he was adamant that that what I said it was wrong, and that it really says that. And I'm like, I would have never made a recording that would say "kill
oh
Zach
my
Baggins." I would
God.
never say that. It's really fascinating. Then I made it into the paper. I put it in the paper. So
That's hilarious. Oh wow.
yeah, yeah, it's really funny.
Oh gosh, that's incredible. So, this has been amazing. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours
Oh
and
yeah,
hours.
there's so much to talk about. Yeah, this
So
has been
much to
nice.
talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. If people want to get in touch with you or see more of your stuff, where can they go?
There's a whole bunch of so if you go to the periodelement.com, and I think I'll send you a link to it if you can put it
Yeah.
there and when you do that. But the period element that keeps track of all my episodes, and like I said, all the episodes are based on the scientific papers. The next one coming out is on Harry Price and his research with Stella Cradshaw
Okay.
from UK. So that's kind of in your neighborhood. But yeah, and then we have one on Kirlian photography, which is the photography of auras, which I think is
Oh.
a very interesting thing, how the scientific element works in that. It's really fascinating. But yeah, if they want to reach me, they can reach me there. And I have other websites for my books as well. And if you want some good stories, this is my giving up my ghost. Giving up the ghost is my memoirs, and I also have experiences, which are all stories, all fictional stories that I wrote. There's 13 of them there, and it's going to be an 8-volume series of
Oh wow.
and it's all based on real claims that people have made to me over the years that I didn't get to
Mhm.
investigate. So I fictionalized them into these
Mhm.
really cool, imaginative stories. It's a lot of
Oh,
fun to read. Yeah. So
excellent. Oh, great. Are your episodes up on YouTube or how do
they
people see?
are. They're on YouTube at the Period Element at the Period Element on YouTube,
Okay.
and there are 2 episodes up there right now. One on the God helmet, which we spoke a little bit about,
Yes.
and the second one is about the fear of darkness. So
Oh.
how what makes darkness so scary?
Hmm.
It's a really cool concept. How why we get afraid of the dark.
Hmm. Excellent. And the film that you made a while ago, where can people find that one?
Also on YouTube, it's for free. 14 Degrees, paranormal documentary. Actually, this is the cover for it, for 14 Degrees. But
Oh,
I did it on DVD, but now I put it out there for free on YouTube. So you can just search for 14 Degrees, a paranormal documentary, and you can watch the whole 2-hour movie. And there's some famous people in there. There's Steve Gonsalves from Ghost Hunters and John Zaffis. Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. And
excellent.
there's some interesting medium activity in there. There's a possession. Somebody gets possessed, and
Oh,
yeah, really, it's interesting. Some good stuff in there.
awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, well, thank you so much, Michael. This has been amazing, and we'll have to get together when I'm back East Coast and do something, even
do
if it's
something.
kind
Sure,
of under the
absolutely.
radar. That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
excellent.
Yeah,
Well, it was
but
really
thank you
nice talking to
for
you.
joining
Yeah,
me. Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate
no
it.
worries. Thanks for having me. Like I said, yeah, it's been very good. Good conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So we'll see you next time.
All right. Take
All
care.
right. You too. Bye.
Bye.